Good afternoon and welcome to a special edition of StandPoint. I am your host, Joke Lijadu. The year 1960 is arguably one of the most significant years in Africa. More than 10 African countries got their independence and freedom from their colonial masters that year. Little wonder it is referred to as the Year of Africa. Nigeria is one of the several countries that gained independence in 1960, and tomorrow, the 1st of October, our great nation will be 57 years old. Happy 57th birthday, Nigeria. We have come a long way, but it's not been an easy journey. It has taken blood and sweat for Nigeria to come into our own. But sadly, 57 years after independence, we are still battling with issues such as marginalization, insecurity, and the likes that are fueling the clamor for restructuring. Which way, Nigeria? Well, with me in the studio today is the Commissioner for Information, Culture and Tourism, Oyo State, Toye Arilogun. You're welcome to the program.
Thank you very much. It's great being here.
So let me ask you, would you say that, how would you describe, Nigeria in the 57 years that it's regained its independence?
Well, I think it's a mixed bag, really. It's a mixed match of all kinds of things. If you take Nigeria to be a human being, as a male or female, 57 years is much in the lifespan, if you look at the average lifespan. But if you look at the lifespan or the life cycle of a country, it's still a baby, really. But over the last 57 years, what has happened is that we've gone through our ups and downs, our lows and our highs. And for me as an individual, I think the Nigerian nation is still work in progress. I'm sure that we'll get it together, but at this point in time, we need more active participation of the critical mass, and I'm talking about the youth. We need more involvement in political activity. We need more involvement in all spheres, because there's this tendency for everybody to say, oh, it's we against them. And you can make a change really from outside. It's only when you're on the inside that you can make a change.
All right, so from the coups in the First and Second Republic to agitations in the Niger Delta, Boko Haram in the northeast, IPOB agitations in the east, would you say that Nigeria is indeed a workable project? Do you think that the project Nigeria is workable? Yeah,
project Nigeria is workable, but we need to sit down to discuss. We need to agree on terms and conditions. I believe that after the civil war, this is about, the highest level that the issue of Nigerians wanting to secede, wanting devolution of powers, restructuring. This is the highest. It is at the highest right now. And I think it shows, that people really want to sit down to talk about this thing. Whichever way it goes, the fact that we will have spoken about it will pacify people. And of course, there'll be the opportunity to convince different groups about their positions, your position, my position, and ultimately would agree on something that, can lead us to, like they say, the promised land.
Now, with clamors for restructuring everywhere, do you think that Nigeria would see the next 57 years if we do not begin to do something about restructuring?
No, certainly there'll be some form of restructuring, whether we like it or not. And that's my personal opinion. And ultimately, restructuring can be federalism, federalism can be restructuring. Whichever way, some things must give way at a point in time like this, such that, the ill feelings will be assuaged, and people will, see Nigeria from a different perspective. Of course, it's all about input and output. Whatever you get, whatever you put in is also what you're going to get in. So at a time like this, Nigeria is 57. Certainly, we need to sit down, round table. Let's agree on a few things in terms of way forward. So we'll see another 57 years. It's just unfortunate that you and I wouldn't be around.
Obviously. But I could be around in 57 years, really. But no, come to think of it, 57 years. I'm sure there are things that, we can celebrate as our successes. What are some of the things that you think that, should give us cause for joy?
I think there are more of individual personalities, successes, rather than the corporate ones. Nigerians have distinguished themselves in various fields. Unfortunately, we've not been able to harness, a lot of these successes to help us develop the country. Nigerians are doing well in various fields, but how they bring that to bear on the Nigerian nation is still, leaves much to be desired. But as a nation, if we are to celebrate anything, thank God we are still one.
Yeah, obviously.
In spite of all the clamoring.
Yeah.
I also believe that comparatively, Nigeria has done well in the area of technology. We've done very well. It's not many countries that have deployed technology the way we have, even though it's not from here, but in terms of the usage of technology, that is we have our Nollywood to celebrate. We used to, and I say we used to because in sports, Nigeria used to be great, but now we are dipping. So we need to look at some of those areas. But I believe it's a matter of basically adjusting, to the current times. And one of the things that we also need to do is to change our mindset, is to change, we need a paradigm shift in terms of how we need to progress forward as a nation. That would solve a lot of our problems because it starts from the mind, and if you can conceive it, it can always happen to you.
Now, it's apparently 3 years to our 60th anniversary, which will obviously be a big deal for us. Now, if we would be a country, as in a nation, by our 60th anniversary, what are some of the things you think we should be doing as we move forward?
I think, in the first instance, what people are agitating for right now needs to be resolved. If in the next 3 years we'll still be together, and I pray and I hope and I believe that certainly we'll still be together, we need to talk about it. We need to talk about the Nigerian problem. People cannot be shouting and throwing stones into one house. We need to call, that sit-down session where everybody says, look, this is what I think, this is what is happening. We can feel it, you can feel it. And I believe that that's already happening. I know that the party at the center is already doing that and taking, inputs from everybody. Once we're able to get the inputs, then we see where people are, desire change or people want, improvements, then we'll find that solution. If it is done, I also believe that we need to carry a lot more in terms of participation of the Nigerian people in governance. That is important to me, and I say so from my own experience because it's easy to sit down in the bar, it's easy to sit down in your house, it's easy to sit down in church, and in after church and everybody's talking, and you're pontificating, you're postulating, but it's not reality, and that's the honest truth. So we need to face reality. We all need to, it's not about seeking elective office, it's also being more conscious of what's happening in terms of governance and politics. You don't have to run for elective position before you're active politically. No, but you can sit there and determine, look, this is our local government. We want this kind of person, and we go seek for it, put him down, support him, and let him, get to that position. Ultimately, because we believe that person will deliver.
So how will Oyo State be celebrating the 57th anniversary of Nigeria? Okay,
I'm sure in tune with the times, it's going to be low-key, but it also will be remarkable, if you ask me. We started with some activities already. The security agencies, and I think it was yesterday or the day before yesterday, they had a tug of war. We're going to the stadium for a match pass tomorrow. There was a quiz competition for the kids. The governor is also exercising his prerogative of mercy. About 21 prisoners will be released. I'm sure the office of the First Lady is also going to be visiting, the less privileged and charity homes in terms of donations and things like that. Nothing too elaborate.
Well, happy anniversary, Nigeria. We move on now. We will be beaming our searchlight on Oyo State, one of the biggest states in Nigeria by size, with a landmass of about 29,000 square kilometers and a population of about 7 million people. Currently, there's some sort of crisis in Ibadan, Oyo State capital, over the elevation of 21 high chiefs to the status of Obas without the consent of the Olubadan of Ibadan land. The situation has now worsened with the recent attack on the Olubadan's palace. Of course, the state government has condemned the attack, but the allegations that the state government is responsible for the attack. Let me ask you, what's your take on this? what's the state government's body language to the attack on the palace?
I think before we talk about the attack, let's look at the review itself. And that would help, to understand, whether government is doing what is right or wrong. And I believe that in life, the only thing that is constant is change. In Ibadan, it never used to be an Olubadan that was ruling the land. Started from Bales. So one day, it became Olubadan. The first Olubadan was not a beaded, was not even a crown-wearing Oba. So I'm trying to establish the fact that in life, there's change, there's review, there's reform. And if you look at, the environment in which we operate, especially comparatively with our counterparts in the Southwest, you will see that there was a strong need, for there to be the elevation of that stool. And that's exactly what government did. It wasn't even a government's decision solely. It was in response to the yearnings of
the Olubadan in Council.
Olubadan in Council, Ibadan Elders Forum, Central Council of Ibadan Indigenes. It even predates this current Olubadan. Okay, the discussion has been going, especially from the immediate past Olubadan, who, when he went to receive his award of, is it OFR or COF, one of those national merit awards, found out that when he came with just 2 people, there was a retinue of other Obas. And if you look at it, even in Lagos here where we're seated, look at what's happening. Even in Agege, you would see an Oba.
There's the Elegushi.
Yes, exactly. So government decided that, look, it was time. And government did not, take a unilateral decision. And I was going to, come in when you said without the consent of the Olubadan. Government does not need the consent of the Olubadan to do that. The law allows the government to. And people keep talking about the law, the law. No. What government reviewed was a chieftaincy declaration. And therefore, it didn't need to go to the House of Assembly for anything. But then, the stool is what is important. Government decided that we needed to elevate the stool. And it's not about the person there, because by the grace of God, this man will go on, and another person will get there. So it's about the stool of the Olubadan itself. And government decided to elevate it. Also, the government set up a panel, and that panel, sat half of it about a public sitting, another half, where they were compiling their reports. And the point I'm trying to make is, government received 118 memoranda. 91 of them requested for beaded crowns. That, for me, is an indication of the way the people wanted to go. Okay? And it was not all the 91 applications or requests that were granted. Okay? They looked at the historical antecedents of the locations, of the people, both oral, written, and everything that was important. And therefore, the judicial panel made its recommendation. And government did not take the judicial panel's recommendation hook, line, and sinker. Okay? What government did was to look at the key issues. And let me say this immediately. What is the singular most important thing about the Olubadan stool? It's about the ascension and the success, the succession, the ascendancy and the succession. And government did not touch it because it is dear to our people. What I'm saying is that the next Olubadan knows himself, the one coming next knows it. So we've not touched it, as in government has not touched it. So what government has just done is to elevate, the position of the Olubadan to His Imperial Majesty, and therefore the Olubadan Council has become, or members have become His Royal Majesties, or their Royal Majesties. And of course, there are some other traditional rulers like the Bales, who were upgraded to Obas. And if you upgrade them to Obas, and nobody's quarreling with that, you needed to upgrade the Olubadan Council because they were senior to them, to Obas as well, okay? And that's exactly what government has done. Government had not violated any laws. There was no judicial impediments to government's action. But yes, people do not like change. They're not used to change. This is not the first time. When Ibadan Municipal was going to be broken into different local governments, they protested. When government was going to establish schools governing board, they protested. This is our people. Like my boss would say, we are rebels, we are Republicans.
But let me ask you, what exactly, prior to now, what exactly was the relationship between the state governor and the Olubadan of Ibadan?
Oh, fantastic. And I still imagine that is there.
And you does the state government didn't think that, they needed to talk and get the Olubadan on board?
Oh, of course, there were several, moments or instances of consultations. Okay, I mean, if you go on the internet, you will see one where the Olubadan and the governor sat together, where he said he accepted, later he did not accept. That's still part of consultation. And I asked myself, when the judicial panel was sitting, those who were opposing this, where were they? Why couldn't they go to the judicial panel to make their own, put forward their own memoranda to say, sorry, we don't approve of this, or if we approve of this, this is the extent to which we think it should go, and all of that, and all of that. Now that government has taken the final decision, gazetted it in form of a white paper, but they were there. It was a public sitting, okay? So, and this is why, if you remember when we were talking about Nigeria, I was talking about being active, politically and even in terms of governance. Okay, everybody sat down and they were just watching. And the people who came there did not just submit, they defended their proposals, okay, or their memoranda. And government had to take a decision based on evidence before it.
Well, the Olubadan of Ibadan's Obasaliu Adetunji and the former governor of Oyo, Senator Ladoja, has dragged the Oyo State government to court over what they have described as a forceful installation, as well as the attack on the palace. What's the latest in the matter? No,
the matter is in court. There's no problem. As it relates to the violence, and I like to state this honestly, this current government in Oyo State, everybody knows is a government of peace. If you remember where Oyo State used to be, we used to be in the era of brigandage, violence, mayhem, thuggery, and I think that is what they're trying to bring back. But certainly not this government. What does the government stand to gain in unleashing violence at the Olubadan? If government wants to do anything, government will look at the constitution, will look at the law to be able to do that. So, I mean, for me, it is their own stock in trade, okay? And politics is coming, is around the corner. Okay, so some of these things are, but I believe that the governor himself has stated clearly that he's not going to allow such to happen. Your state, we can't go back to the days of yore when people could not sleep with their two eyes closed, when people would be calling each other to say, oh, where has this started again, and people will be running up and down. So this government is not a government that is known for thuggery and violence and brigandage. I mean, we know them. I don't want to start mentioning names, but I'm sure we all know them. And the antecedents are there, the history is there, And,
but is the state government working out, a peaceful resolution to these issues?
Well, when you go to court, I doubt if there's any resolution that can be worked out, which is not to say that, government is folding its arms. But then, once you go to court, I think it's better for the court to decide on the matter. There's nothing else that anybody would do.
All right, let's talk about the welfare of civil servants in the state. It's no news that Oyo State is owing workers salary arrears and entitlements, despite several bailouts from the federal government. The staff of Ladoke at Akintola University of Technology in Ogbomoso, Oyo State have been on strike for over 4 months now over unpaid salaries and allowances that has accumulated to the sum of 4 billion naira. The education of over 34,000 students of the university are hanging on a thin line due to no fault of theirs. The workers say they have not been paid for 13 months and that they are wallowing in economic hardship and poverty. The institution is owned by Oyo and Osun State, and the federal government has washed off its hand off the matter for that reason. Are there any collaborations between Governor Ajimobi and Governor Aregbesola to ensure that,
Oh, certainly.
Because I know that there was a panel set up, headed by Wole Olanipe, to, of course, find a solution to the problem.
The way I like to address this issue is let's go to the basics. The university is owned by 2 states. A tertiary institution, under any circumstance, just like we have right now, is an autonomous institution. Yes, it is government-owned or founded by government, and in terms of funding, government provides subvention. What is a subvention? It's a form of assistance, aid, grant. Whatever you use your subvention to do, government does not dictate. But what has happened is that over the years, the universities have been using the subvention to pay salaries. Now, with what has happened globally, nationally, and of course, affects your state, paucity of funds. Government now says, sorry, we do not have the funds to give you any longer. And this is reality, okay? This is reality. And therefore, we need to drop your subvention level. You guys must think out of the box. Back to this issue of paradigm shift. We can no longer give you the funds that we used to give you. What is wrong with that? For me, as an intellectual community, they understand economics better, they understand global trends better. They should have even seen this thing coming. They should have been prepared for it. Okay? So government now says we don't have the money because it is not there. We've sat down many times, I've been at the meetings. The money is not available. This is what is available. Oyo State is a state that uses 100% of its federal allocation to pay less than 2% of the population. That is the civil servants. All right? Everything, 100% from federal allocation used to pay salaries. All right? So where is the money going to come from? And I'm sure we'll still get to that. But the point I'm making is that there are 3 or 4 different levels in terms of salary payment. And I'm still going to address the LAUTECH issue. But I need to paint this global picture. The state workers, okay? The local government workers, the pensioners, and of course those that belong to the state, but they work with parastatals, like people in Broadcasting Corporation of your state, people in the universities and all of that. So they're for you. So when government says we've paid state workers, okay, we're talking largely about the people who are working, you know, with the government directly. And like I said, the tertiary institutions are autonomous institutions, okay? So now, back to LAUTECH. LAUTECH is a mismanagement issue for me. The Oyo State government has pumped in since 2011 till now about 22 billion. And you're asking the government not to ask you questions. Government will ask for a probe. Even the panel said government should do a forensic audit. And it took a long while before they accepted. I mean, let's face it, nobody's going to put money in an institution and not query or try to find out how the money is being used.
But shouldn't the audits be done by or be approved by the governing council of the university?
There's a governing council, and this is where the irony is, the contradiction. When you want to implement something that affects them or something that probes them, they say it's the governing council. When you're looking for money, you come to the state. So why don't you just face the governing council and leave the state out of it? You know, so these are some of the issues that we need to, need to address. But the governing council is working now. They've met all the stakeholders. And I believe that from what I read, if it's very correct, because these days you are not too sure about what you read, they're supposed to start
by I think next month, yeah, 3rd of October, yeah.
And of course, government has also, in the last 6 months, the Oyo State government has been paying them 80 million naira per month. Okay, so what are we talking about? You are spending money somewhere. You need to know what is happening. But LAUTECH problem is more, is global. Okay, one, this is a university of technology. They need to streamline their courses. They have a huge number of non-teaching staff they need to cut off. Okay, this is not about, you know, politics or about experience. That is real. Okay, now you also talked about Oyo State generally in terms of workers, and you talk about OIN. As we speak today, Oyo State has paid up to June. And I know for a fact that by next week, once the federal allocation comes and all the other things added, the July salary will be paid. But what is important, and this is what I need to emphasize to our people, the spirit behind government. In 2011 to 2015, Oyo State was getting 4.8 billion, 5.2 thereabout. We were paying salaries. Increase in salaries between 2011 to 2015, 3 times, okay? Some will say 300%, but let's leave it at 3 times. Housing loan, car loan, minimum of 100% increase. 142% increase in pensions. Everything cleared. 13th-month salary paid. Training, promotion, 10 buses devoted to civil servants, which means that they were not paying. You know, and that was some form of savings. Now, what am I saying? That is the same government that in the past. What has changed? Is it that the government is now wicked? No, it's because the money is not available. And yet, the government signed an agreement, 100% of whatever I get from Abuja, I'll use to pay less than 2% of the population. So these are the issues, because if government was doing it from 2011 to 2015, naturally, if the money is not there, something has to give way, something has to change. And I need to emphasize this about, you know, the government being, you know, alive to its responsibilities in terms of the welfare of the people. So what has now happened? Recently, we've been accessing a lot of funds, And government has even been paying, as of January, we were owing 7 months. Government has been paying double salaries. We've done it 4 times. So I need to emphasize the spirit behind the government. The government understands the plight of the people. We are committed to paying this. But where it is not there, and for everybody who says, pay us a salary, it will be nice for them to say, okay, this is how we can improve the revenue of government. Because you're working for the state. Even the people that are in Lautech, let them give us a master plan or a proposal. This is how you can improve it. It's not just sitting down and say, give us our salary, give us. Nobody does that. And that's why the paradigm has to shift. We need to involve a more entrepreneurial and business-minded orientation for running government. It's not 30 days make one pay. The fact that you've come to work today, and this is what I tell some of my staff, the fact that you come to work today and you've not done anything does not make you earn that pay. And they tell you, no, I've left my house, I've come here.
That means I've earned my pay.
You know, and nobody operates like that. So we need to have this change. Also, to be able to pay the salaries, government has, you know, taken a few steps, you know, like...
Because I know that, you know, Oyo State received 7.9 billion in Paris bailout fund.
Yes.
How was it expended? Okay,
fine. From the, the first tranche was 7.2 billion. 60% of it was used to pay salaries, 40 on other developmental projects. The next tranche was 5.003, and 100% of it was used. Okay, and that's one, but it came in 2 tranches or 2 installments. The final one was 7.9 billion, and we used 65% of it to pay salaries. What more can you ask for? Okay, and that's why we're able to pay these double salaries, you know. And we are committed to, wiping off whatever is outstanding, you know, and we've embarked on a lot of cash generating projects. We've reduced our costs, you know, here and there. We've embarked on checking the system itself through BVN, staff verification, because you have people who are earning 6 people's salary, you have people who are dead, who are being paid, and all sorts of things, and government is addressing that so that it can bring down, you know, some of these costs.
So right now, it appears that the state is swamped with a lot of recurrent expenditures. Now, what is the state doing to diversify its revenue, as in internally generated revenue?
Fantastic. I think this is where we're already, you know, achieving some measure of success. First of all, when I say it, and I say it with all sense of responsibility, any economy, because when I say Oyo State is using 100% of its federal allocation to pay less than 2% of the population, I also get my people say to me, yes, but the less than 2% or the 2% feed the 98%. It's a misnomer. It's a dissonance. Something is wrong with that economy. Something is certainly wrong with that economy. A civil service economy cannot thrive, you know, or develop that economy. So what has government done? Government is diversifying. Government is bringing in investments. Government is industrializing the state. And the result of all of this is that if you check the National Bureau of Statistics, the latest records show that in 2017, Oyo State is one of the only 5 states in Nigeria, you know, that have attracted investment into their state, and one of the top 5 investment-friendly states. And how have we achieved this? One, we can talk about how we've made Oyo State peaceful, safe, and secure. But then we have incentives. We've also started our free trade zone, industrial park, you know, and we're giving land to people who want to develop, want to establish factories and all of that. Agriculture alone cannot develop that economy. We need to add a lot of industrialization, and the government kickstarted that industrial revolution with the establishment of a free trade zone where you have 157 companies coming from China, and about 7 of them have started their building already. You can imagine the multiplier effect of that within the Oyo State economy. Agriculture is another thing that we're doing. The singular or the most important thing that has happened in that area is the 9 billion investment in rice production by the Dangote Group.
Because I was about to say that Oyo has loads of arable land. And back in the day, that's where we have cocoa house. So you must have something in agriculture.
We're working on it. Back to this issue of chain, and I would like to emphasize it. We are having a campaign right now where we need to let our people know that please give your land for farming. People like to keep their land. You know, it's my great-grandfather's land. So
they want to keep it in the family.
Yeah, forest, bush. But government is doing that. Now we have agric zones. Now we have a lot of investors coming. Government is giving easy access or accessibility to land for people to be able to do mechanized farming. Government itself has established its own model of the Songhai farms in Pacesetter farms in Awe. We have silos, about 10,000.
Is the government empowering farmers?
Oh, yes, certainly. I mean, as we speak, there are youths that, we've given land for farming, giving money, giving seedlings, so that, they can do a lot
Increased
of this.
interest.
Yeah, because agriculture is the way forward. And one of the stunning things I learned when the Honorable Minister for Agriculture was in Oyo State and we're talking to our stakeholders in Agri was that a liter of honey is more expensive than a liter of petrol.
Obviously.
And that opened my eyes, and I said, maybe I should go into farming, which is one of the few things that you can do as a public or civil servant. I'm just saying that we're taking that agriculture, aspect of that sector very seriously, such that in a short while, I mean, I read a report from our Greek desk. They were talking about the level of excitement about what maize is going to be. Oyo State is, we have the highest production of cassava. There are many things that you can use cassava to achieve, So these are some of the things that we are doing.
How about partnership with other states, like what we've seen in Lagos? We have the Lake Rice Initiative, for instance.
Certainly. I'm aware that Lagos State is already talking to us, right? There's partnership within the state, in some of them, but, they're still at the discussion stage. I think they've progressed. The last time we asked the person in charge, it's about to come to fruition. So the government is doing a lot of that. But certainly investment, agriculture, and then the economy of the state will move from this 2% feeding the 98%.
Well, it's often said that the greatest asset of any nation or state is human development. What is the state or your state doing in this area, developing its human capacity? Well,
I think you are technically asking me about education, which I would answer. Yeah, education is a very serious one, and I would like to use this opportunity to be able to, beam the searchlight or x-ray some of these things that you see on the internet, Oyo State 27 position 26. No, there's nothing like that. First of all, this year, WASC result, Oyo State 54% pass rate in the year where the national average was 59%. We're talking about 54%. And that 54% is the best result in the last 18 years. The one before it was 22%, 21%, 12, 16, and all of that. And when it comes to this issue of national rating and all of that, I have it on good authority. WAEC says we don't do national rating. We give you the result. But if you have all the results, you can do your rating. NECO does, or your state is second, at least as at the last time. Now, even if you want to do a national rating, I think it makes sense for you to do it in categories. What am I saying? A state puts in 11,000 candidates. Another state puts 57,000 candidates. You cannot be on the same platform. They cannot be in the same category. All right? It's like in boxing. A lightweight can never be the world boxing champion. It has to be the heavyweight.
Obviously.
So when you are comparing lightweights and light featherweights and heavyweights, so your state is, we have like 55 or 53, candidates or something like that, okay? And, so if you want to categorize, let's categorize those that are doing 50,000 and above.
But what are you doing to encourage more people to go to school?
No, people are going to school. We have one of the highest population of people going to school by virtue of, you also mentioned it, our population. But what has happened? First of all, for us, education is on 5 legs. The management, the teachers, the students, the infrastructure, and of course, the parents, because parents have a huge role to play in this. And what government has done is to take care of the management, believing that management is important to be able to address all the other issues. And therefore, we've established a schools governing body in each public secondary school. The schools governing board is managing the schools, made up of various stakeholders, teachers, and all of that. And it is evident with our results, okay? We also have, no automatic promotion. We established that policy. Some students went to burn schools. Where is it done? So we saw that there is a deficiency in terms of character. So we started Oyomisi, which is basically to address character issues. Okay. Now we're doing boot camps, we're doing summer camps, we're doing quality control for them. Teachers are being trained, And of course, recently the governor just approved 5 billion for us to go and do infrastructural renovation or rehabilitation of about 100 schools out of the, I think it's 622 or 628, but we'll get there. Okay, so these are some of the things I'm doing. But I would like to also emphasize this issue of change. When the government came out, with the policy of liberalizing the management of schools, they went on the streets. They want to sell schools, calling the governor all kinds of names, shouting and destroying property. Okay, but today, it has yielded results. Today, it is acceptable. And I want to use that to say, this is the same way the review of the Olubadan chieftaincy, hue and cry, ultimately down the road, everybody will accept it someday because they'll begin to see the benefits.
Is the Oyo State government keen into the school feeding project of
oh,
the
yes,
presidency?
certainly. I mean, it's coming from the federal government. We are keen into it, okay? And yes, hitches here and there, especially when you start a new project like that or implementing a new policy. But by and large, everybody's okay and happy with it.
All right, let's talk about infrastructure developments now. Let's start with roads. What's roads like in Oyo?
I should just invite you to your state to come and see what is happening.
Because I know. I
mean, if there's anything that this current government is known for, is for infrastructural revolution of the state, where there's a lot of road construction, dualization of roads, and all the major entries, all the entries to all the major towns and cities have been dualized. So in Ibadan is dualized, in Ogbomoso is dualized, in Oyo is dualized, in Okeogun is dualized, in Ibaparapa is ongoing. Now the city, the capital itself,
Ibadan in particular,
we're building a network of roads. I would like to invite you especially, come with your camera. Then you come and see what is happening. Then you can come back to people, oh, Mr. Arilogun did not come here to blab. This is what I've seen. Look, people go to Ibadan now and they say, oh, Ibadan has changed. Before 2011, it wasn't like that. People say, oh, I was in UI in 1980-something. I was in Ibadan. Oh, Ibadan has not changed. It wasn't a compliment. It was an indication of a lack of development. Okay?
And there was something that had to do with dumping of refuse everywhere in Ibadan.
Yeah. Back to this issue of change, reorientation of our people. Do not sell on the streets. They're comfortable with it. When the trailer comes to hit them, they start screaming and shouting. Now, remember that Oyo State is a very traditional state, ancient state, homogeneous. Our people live their comfort zones. The people that I've known with my father for years, in those black and white pictures with patterns and arrows to indicate who are still his friends. They are very like that, okay? But life is dynamic. There has to be change, okay? You don't stay in one position. Even the culture that we're talking about is dynamic, all right? So, you say don't sell on the streets, There is a saying in Ibadan where I say, I cannot use my money to buy Echo, which is in like Agidi. Then I will use my money to dispose of it.
Okay.
So that's the orientation and cultural change that we are asking for. So
there is need for loads of orientation.
We're doing that. Between 2011 and 2015, yes, I believe that we achieved some measure of success. But yes, even if you go now, we have restructured the waste management and waste disposal, system. Yeah, maybe like 2 months, ago, there was some issues because of the gap, the vacuum. But we've come back and we've restructured it, and we have new PSPs going on. What we need to do is to convince our people to put their waste in their bins, then get somebody to come and pack it for you. But as at 2011, we used to be one of the dirtiest cities, but certainly not now. But I would also admit that maybe we're going back. But we've quickly, recalibrated our strategies along that line. And that's the kind of thing. And
I remember the micros from Ibadan. I'm sure they are still there.
Yeah, the micros are there. They're changing their colors to the new colors of the state. It's just about our people, the same orientation thing that we need to constantly let them see. We cannot be in the same position, and we must be able to compete amongst the committee of states. We cannot just say, okay, this is the way it's being done in Oyo State. And the irony is, when you talk to our people, they say, why are you not doing like Lagos State? The moment you say, okay, let's do this, please, don't bring Lagos model here. It doesn't work here, So you have that conflict. But by and large, we are working on it. We're happy with our people in terms of what they're doing, response to tax. When we started, they were even asking questions like, oh, do women pay taxes? And we're saying, yes, because a woman can own a house. We need to educate them. And we agreed with the societies, the groups, and the associations on what they'll be paying. And there's improvement now. And if you ask me really about the IGR, yes, there's been improvement, but not to the level where we're going, because like I said, this is a civil service state. And the moment you don't pay salaries, it naturally affects, you know, because the PAYE contributes, you know, about half of whatever you're going, if not more, you know. So these are some of the issues and the challenges, but we are facing it headlong.
All right, we'll go on a short break now. When we come back, the Oyo State discussion continues. Stay with us.
For me, it's a quest.
For both sides, it's a test.
Have you cut down? Have you tightened your belt? Have you led by example?
You want me to answer?
Some answers just won't do.
You still haven't provided an explanation that would justify your former principal.
But after the drill,
The Ministry of Information and less the Ministry of Agriculture, and you intend to diversify the economy.
I hope we are not arguing.
there's a hard compromise
You leave me in no doubt of your position on these issues. Thank you very much for your time.
that gives you a clearer picture of the issue.
So are you telling me that I'm the low voice now on the issue of 17 billion?
Fireworks, unbiased, unabashed, unrelenting.
On TVC News.
Welcome back. We have been beaming our searchlight on Oyo State, and the Commissioner for Information, Culture and Tourism, Oyo State, Toye Arulogun, has been, of course, exploring these issues with me. So let me ask you, let's talk health now. The maternal and infant mortality rate in Oyo State used to be on the eye. Well, what is government doing, to ensure that, that is brought down?
When was the last time you checked? Because the rate has reduced. Okay, maternal mortality has reduced. Also, the HIV/AIDS prevalence from 3.0% to 1.9%, and reduction of malaria incidence by 42%. Those are the figures that are that are working now. In terms of health, let me say that there is a huge challenge with health, especially because it is capital intensive, and given all the things that we've discussed today, you see that government needs a lot of money to be able to do some of the things it desires to do. But how have we resolved the issue? Now for health, what we've done is to take the hospitals to the doorsteps, to the homes of the people by engaging constantly in free medical missions, which means all the local governments and the LCDs, we have a medical team that goes around all of them to take care of them, which is not to say that we've closed the hospitals, okay, but it's not about the brick and mortar anymore. It's about you taking the hospitals to the doorsteps of the people. And over 1 million people have benefited from that. As at the last check is close to 2 million now. And I've witnessed some of these things in a room, and they are doing what you call hernia harvest. And I mean, it's not just about giving analgesics. No, it's about surgery, right up to that. So we're able to do that. But more importantly, to resolve, the issues, the government of Oyo State is the first state government in Nigeria that has established a state health insurance scheme, where with 650 naira on a monthly basis, you are entitled to medical services. Also, we recently launched the 50 billion health endowment scheme, which is supposed to be the pool of funds that would help us address the infrastructural issues in the health sector. So, I mean, with those three, if you look at it, apart from all the things about, you know, renovation of primary health care centers and all of those things,
hospitals.
yes, and existing hospitals, you know, and of course, even for the human capacity, just like you said earlier, we have upgraded some of our schools of nursing and midwifery to College of Nursing and Midwifery, School of Hygiene to College of Health Technology, you know. So this is going to, you know, improve the quality of manpower that is going to be servicing all of this. And manpower is important. Capacity is important for this. So largely in the health sector, that's how we've been coasting along. But right now we're going for what you call the home run with the endowment fund to be able to do that. And of course, with 650 naira, you know, in your state, you're entitled to medical services. But so that the medical services can be upgraded and up to date and satisfy, you know, the needs of the people, we backed it up with that endowment fund. And the monies are trickling in, and we're using it to develop each of the, you know, and make them up to par. There are also bigger projects like the establishment of a cardiovascular center, you know, and things like that. But, I mean, so those are the three things that, you know, signpost developments. The free medical mission, the state health insurance scheme, and the endowment fund. Every other thing, you know, falls within, you know, that.
You're the State Commissioner for Information and Tourism, and I know that tourism is a big deal across the world. What is the state doing to harness, you know, that sector as a source of revenue? Okay,
for us, we see it in two major parts. One, the hardware and the software. When I talk about the hardware in terms of tourism, I'm talking about the sites, the monuments, the structures that are there. And the software will now be the things like music, fashion, you know, language, you know, all the other things that are lifestyle related. So what are we doing? First of all, our philosophy is identify, package, promote, and partner. One, you identify where these, you know,
attractions are.
We package them because some of them are in their rawest form. We promote them so that people can be aware. And of course, we now partner because we don't have the funds to be able to do this. And that's why recently we put up the advertisement for people who would come to work with government on a public-private partnership for some of these hardware. Hardware, for example, Cultural Center, Bowers Tower, where if you stand on Bowers Tower, you can see the entire Ibadan. We also are developing the Ironsi Fajri Memorial Park, which is where the late head of state, General Ironsi, and his host were assassinated. So we've gotten our proposals for the LALA waterfront is there. Ado-Awaye Lake, which is a suspended lake, which is a lake on a hill. Only two of such in the world. One is in Oyo State, and the other one is in Colorado. As at 2 days ago, I was in touch with our team that went to Colorado to say, look, come and develop this for us. We don't have the money to do it. Now, those things are there, but they're in their rawest and, you know, basic forms. So you need all the infrastructure and all the things that would make them viable. Government doesn't have the money. Government is owing 2 months salary. Okay, as of today, maybe 3 months. So we need, you know, to give it out to people on the public-private partnership to work with us. So we're doing that. But more importantly, the softer side, which is what I call the software, we have been doing a lot of that. One is to look at our fashion. If you lose your language, let me start with that, you lose your culture. So if you lose your fashion, the way I'm dressed and everybody has an idea of where I come from, who I represent by virtue of my car, you know, certainly not Igbo, certainly not Hausa. But so we've taken our local fabric, the Ashofi, we've celebrated it, we've beamed the searchlight on it, and we're turning it into something that's economically viable and sustainable. Last week, or 2 weeks ago, we just laid the foundation for the Ashofi International Tourism Market, because one of the problems that we have, or the challenge, is that, and back to this issue of change, our people are still weaving like this. The Chinese are already doing Ashofi with modern equipment. We cannot stay in that position. I'm having to convince them that, look, if you want Ashofi that is hand-woven, let it be premium priced. Ashofi is just like jeans, okay? What are the other uses? For bags, for furniture, for shoes, and all the other things. That's where we should be going. Because you don't wear Ashoki or Ashofi on a daily basis. But for
not even for our weather.
Yeah, exactly. But even the jeans, the textile, the fabric is in terms of thickness is reducing. So actually it can be done like that. So we are doing that. We also last year celebrated our locals, the staple food. If you go to Ibadan or your state, you don't eat amala, it becomes an issue. All right? So people are going to ask you. So we have all these food icons. We brought them together to celebrate amala in a 3-day amala fiesta. All right?
You should invite me for that.
In December, we are going to be inviting you. Another thing that is important to us in Oyo State is where you have the highest number of twins being produced in Igbora.
Yeah,
so we're going to be celebrating our
Twins Festival.
Twins Festival shortly. We're just waiting for the road to be, very good enough for us to be able to take a lot of people there. And we are planning to, to break the Guinness World Record on this because the highest concentration of twins anywhere in the world has been like, I think, 2,000, and we are working on 3,000. Okay, so just in case you know any, invite them, they will be with us. Luckily, our governor is a grandfather of twins. We start with his own, and we'll put everybody together. So these are the softer side that we are looking at, okay, because you need a whole lot of music is another thing that is important. Fuji music started from Ibadan. We are working on the Fuji festival, but it's all about, this. But in spite of that, we'll be able to cope, but we are partnering with a lot of people. We are partnering with the Ashofi Weavers and Marketers Association, up to the extent where the Bank of Industry is talking to them, Export Promotion Council is talking to them. They're asking us to come to London, to the US, to come and showcase this, as, veritable cultural fabrics for, Africans in diaspora. Another thing that we're doing, and this is very dear to me, is that Oyo State is the cradle of Yoruba culture. The Yoruba that you speak, the Yoruba that you use to do your exam is the Yoruba that is spoken in Ibadan, as a matter of fact, to be precise. Every other Yoruba is a variant. Nobody says why questions based on Ijebu, Egba, or any of those things. So we are the cradle of Yoruba culture, and there's a huge demand for what you call self-reparation from Africans in diaspora. We've established links with the Brazilian embassy. We've had our 2 sets of tourists from Brazil who've come to Oyo State for more understanding, better appreciation of the culture, especially things that have to do with Orisha, Ifa, and all of those things. But our people here, when you talk Orisha, Ifa, everybody is screaming blood of Jesus. So those things that are dear to us, that are valuable to us, we don't really appreciate it. Yeah, the culture. Tradition. In Brazil, you go to church, but every house has a shrine. Yeah, okay, in Bahia. And we are in touch with them. I just recently also came back from Trinidad and Tobago. There are a lot of people who want to connect. We are part of the Badagry Diaspora Festival because we see a huge, connection, a strong connection of Oyo State as the cradle of Yoruba culture, with especially Africans in diaspora. The thing about tourism is that Nigerians travel a lot abroad, but we don't travel domestic. We don't do domestic tourism, which is a major problem. Of course, there are reasons, for that, security, infrastructure. And one of the other things that we're doing, which is God-given as a pace-setter state, is what we call pace-setter tourism. And we're using that as an tourism package, educational tourism package, where we've done several bouquets and packages for people to visit Oyo State and just go around all the things that have made us the pace-setter state. First university, first stadium, first skyscraper, and all of that. So if you want, okay, I want to visit 6 sites. This is how much you pay. I want to visit 8. So our students, they're starting this session, to be able to go around. And we are hoping that after we conquer your state, we can now get people from other states to come. So these are some of the things that we're looking at. And ultimately, because for tourism, I see it as a viable alternative, to improving the economy. Oil can expire, but tourism is life. Yeah, tourism is life. And of course, our festivals and all the other things that are related.
I cannot round off this discussion without talking about the 2019 elections that are obviously around the corner. And I know that Governor Ajimobi broke that jinx of being re-elected in 2015. Is there an anointed successor for him?
I think he will be in a better position. He will be in a better position to talk about that. But let me just say it, and I've said it before in one of my newspaper interviews, that the thing for any good leader is to succeed himself. I'll leave it at that.
All right, let me thank you for Mr. Toye Arilogun for coming on the program.
Thank you
and
very
that's
much.
how we wrap up the show for today. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Joke Lejadu. Enjoy your weekend.